Not all lead generation is created equal. In fact, some of them are going to straight up waste your time, especially as a brand new agent. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down all of the good and the bad, most common prospecting strategies. My team and I have done these over the years, and I'm going to be sharing with you all of the experience that we've gathered so far so that you can benefit from it and then you can learn from it. Now, there's a couple things that you need to understand. I'm looking at this from the eyes of a brand new agent. Some of the strategies I'm going to be talking about might be really good down the road, but they might not be very good at the beginning. So it comes down to things like how much time does it take? How much money does it take? Is it something that you can start generating business immediately, or does it take years to build up? So obviously some strategies which could be in a D tier or an F tier for a brand new agent could actually be for an S or an A tier for an experienced agent. So just keep that in mind. The very first one I want to talk about here is going to be bus benches. As a new agent, you're probably paying a lot of attention to what's going on in your community and around the city. And I'm guessing you've seen at least a handful of bus benches where agents are showcasing themselves and trying to get clients. So bus benches are something that a lot of agents do. And this goes back all the way to a very long time ago. This isn't a new strategy by any means. Now, here are the pros and the cons. So the pros are you get visibility, and you can get that visibility in whichever area you prefer. So you can be very strategic about where these bus benches are going to be situated. So you can really focus on a given area. And let's say that you live in a given community, you can hopefully find some bus benches that you can put your face on, and then people will see you, and you're going to try to build up your credibility inside of that community. Okay, well, what are the cons to bus benches? Well, they are expensive. That's going to be the first one. And the other con, probably the biggest con, is that they don't work amazingly just by themselves. Let's say that you get a bus bench and it's up for a few months. There's a decent chance you may get 0 calls on it. So that is a little bit of a problem. So we're going to say that this is a long-term strategy. If you're in the business for a very long time and you're really building your credibility in a given area, you have a nice budget, and it's part of a very large strategy, bus benches can be amazing. But for a brand new agent, somebody who is hungry for deals and looking to do business immediately, this is terrible. I don't recommend that you start your career with bus benches. I'm going to put this into the F tier. And again, this is only for new agents. So I don't recommend that you start out with this. All right, let's keep going. Sphere of influence is basically people you already know. These are going to be past coworkers, friends, family members, maybe people you go to church with, people you're a part of a club with. These are people that in general are already a part of your life. And there's a lot of really good pros here. So these are usually going to be warm leads. You don't have to warm these people up. They're not cold. It's not like they have no idea who you are. You don't have to win them over as much. They already know you. They already like you. And hopefully they already trust you. So there's a lot of pros here. And one of the other ones is there's going to be a lot less running around. You don't have to go out and find these people. Usually these people are already in your phone book. So sphere of influence is something you are 100% going to be focusing on. Now, there are some cons. They know you. And that sounds like a pro, and it is, but here's the downside. They know when you started real estate. Somebody that you meet on the street has no idea if you've been in the industry for 1 month or 10 years. If you know what you're saying, if you're coming off confident and you can provide expert advice, they don't care because they don't know that you just started. Whereas somebody in your sphere of influence, what you're going to experience is sometimes they're going to be waiting on the sidelines just to see, okay, well, is this person really taking this seriously? Should I really work with them, or are they going to quit in 5 to 6 months? So they may actually sometimes sit on the sidelines because they're just not quite sure how serious you are about it yet. And they are concerned that you're brand new and this is the most important investment in their life. So you will get a little bit of that. But regardless of everything, this is 100% an A tier. You should be doing sphere of influence. This is super critical. You don't have to just rely on sphere of influence, and you shouldn't, but this is a fantastic way that every single agent should be trying to get leads. All right, up next, we've got TV and radio ads. Now, here's the pros. It's passive in the sense that you put out these ads on TV, on radio, whatever it is, and you don't have to think about it. They're just going to be playing. They can have a wide reach, which is also very good. However, Here's the downsides. This can be very pricey. And as a brand new agent, a lot of the time, you don't have a massive budget to work with. The other thing is, you're not always going to be getting calls. So you may not get calls. And if you're spending money on ads and you're not getting calls, that's going to be a bit of a problem. So I don't typically recommend TV and radio ads for brand new agents. And I'm going to put this into the F category. I don't recommend most new agents do this. It's not the best use of their time. All right, let's talk about buying leads. When I say buying leads, this is going to be going to a professional service that captures leads and then sells them to agents. So here's what's really good about this. You can get specific leads. Sometimes you can specifically buy buyer or seller leads. It's very little work. You're not going to be going out and doing a whole bunch of work on these. But of course, on the flip side, it's going to cost you quite a bit of money. So these aren't going to be free, and typically a lot of these services are going to want to see an upfront fee, as well as potentially a split if you ever do a deal with one of these leads. Every single service is going to be a little bit different. One of the other cons is that sometimes they're going to sell you the same leads that they sold to other agents. So sell to multiple agents. That is a big downside. Think about it like this. Imagine that you get a batch of 50 leads, but they've sold those same leads to 2 or 3 other agents, sometimes even more. And you go and call through those leads and they're already taken. Or maybe those leads are getting so many calls from so many different agents because they've been sold a bunch of times that they're really not even going to be talking to you. Sometimes these leads they're just not going to be worth it, right? They're just not the best quality and you don't get enough of them and the price is very high. So you got to be really careful when you're buying leads. So I'm going to put this into the D category. This is something that you could do. This isn't an F, but I would probably make this a fairly low priority. All right, let's talk about door knocking. This is one of my personal favorites. So pros, you can find seller leads. The thing about seller leads is that they are the best type of leads. Sellers don't take as much work as buyers because you're not driving around, you're not showing them a million different properties, and you get to put a lawn sign in front. You could get sign calls and you could actually attract buyers. So one listing can turn into a bunch of business if you do it right. And if it's well priced, if it's in an attractive area. So seller leads are always at a premium. Okay, the other thing that's really nice about this is that there is no cost. And I can't stress this enough. That is super critical as a brand new agent. You may not have a ton of funds in order to dump into your business immediately. That's the position that a lot of people are in when they first start their business. So it's very important. And the other pro here is that it's basically unlimited. Now, this does depend where you live. If you live in a very small town of 500 people, okay, it's going to be very limited. You know, there's only 500 people. If you live in a major city, like let's say Calgary, or New York, or Toronto, or LA, you basically have unlimited leads. You can literally go through, knock the entire city, which I highly doubt you're ever going to manage because that is a lot of houses. But even if you did, you can go through and knock them again the next year. People will forget you. It's not like you can only ever knock one home once. All right, what's the downside? Well, it's hard work. There's no way around it. It's simply hard work. You got to go physically, door to door, knock on it. You got to be prepared to get a lot of rejection, and you got to be prepared that things are sometimes going to get a little bit awkward. If you can move past that, and if you can stick with it and work this quite a bit, this is an absolutely S tier. In fact, I recommend this to a lot of new agents. The only caveat here is that most people are not willing to do door knocking. And that's actually what makes it so good. Most people aren't willing to do it, therefore there's not that many agents out there doing it. So you have an opportunity, if you're willing to do it, to go out and be one of the few that is actually getting in front of people, and that makes it to your benefit. All right. Let's move on to leaving cards. Now, what I'm talking about here is you're taking your business card and you're putting it at a business. Sometimes you'll see businesses, they have little walls where you can pin it in. Sometimes they'll have little trays you can leave it in. If you build rapport with the owner of that business, they're probably going to let you do that. So, pros, there's very little cost, very small cost. And they can be there for a very long time. So we'll say that these last a long time. unless that business shuts down or for some reason they throw out your business cards could be there for years. Now, the cons on this is that people just don't really look for realtors this way. So we'll say it's hard to get leads, or at least you're going to be getting a low number of leads for every business card that you leave. Other than that, it's also quite passive, meaning that now passive is both a pro and a con. It's pro because you don't actively have to do it, but it's a con because if you're not actively doing anything, you're waiting and hoping for something to happen. And that is a downside. You can't go out and make things happen. You're hoping that something happens. That's passive. So that's actually a con in this case. I'm going to put this into the C tier. I think that this can be worth your while, but don't spend too much time on it. If there are businesses that you frequent regularly, like restaurants or barbershops, whatever it is, just ask if you can leave some business cards there. It really doesn't take very long, but don't rely on this as a primary prospecting strategy. Think of this as the icing on the cake. You may get a lead here once in a while, or you also might not. So don't focus on this too much. All right, social media. If you go on Instagram, if you go on TikTok, it's the #1 most talked about thing. Every agent should be doing social media. This is how you get leads, all that kind of stuff. There's some truth to that. And I do think that social media is very good. So here are the pros. You can have a high exposure. That can be a huge pro. And this is basically an extension of your resume. So you should be doing this. Social media is something that everybody should be doing. I would argue that any agent, whether they're in the business brand new or if they've been in the business for a long time, they should be doing social media at least to a certain extent, at the very bare minimum, as an extension of their resume, meaning that people will look you up just to see, hey, are you working? What are you doing? Are you legit? And do you have some degree of credibility? People will look you up. So that's very important. Now, the downsides on this is that it can take a while. So we'll say lots of time. You could start doing social media, but not really see any benefit from it for quite a long time. And the other thing is that it is time consuming. It seems very simple and it seems like you're not really doing much. You're just posting once in a while. But the reality is the people who are generating business, who are generating leads from social media, they have a concrete plan of action. They execute that plan of action on a weekly basis. This isn't something that you can just do once in a while. This is something that you have to do on a regular basis. You have to be very, very consistent. You have to put a lot of thought into it. And if you do that, you can build up a strong following over a longer period of time, and then it will start paying off. I'm going to put this into the A tier because I think everybody should be doing it. It's not quite S, and the reason that it's not S is that you could start doing social media but not see any results for a long time. Whereas something like door knocking, you could potentially see results in your first week. If you're doing it right, if you're doing it enough, if you're being consistent, you could see those results very quickly. Okay, up next, we've got a vanilla website. What I'm talking about here is a website that doesn't have any traffic being driven to it. So you created a website, it's called slavloban.com, which I did create when I first became an agent, and there was no traffic going to it. Nobody saw it, and there really wasn't a whole lot of benefit to it. So this can have a benefit of if somebody isn't too sure about you and they look you up and they land on your website and they're like, oh yeah, okay, this person's legit, that can be a little bit beneficial, but you're usually not originating leads from your regular website unless you're driving traffic to it, unless you have landing pages, and unless there is a full funnel from start to finish for how do you capture leads, how do you convert them, how do you take them out, how do you get their information. So in most cases, a regular website that doesn't have any of those things, it's not going to be able to do that, and it's not going to capture leads. The pros on a vanilla website is that it can give you credibility. And the cons are low traffic, or possibly no traffic at all, which is not great. I'm going to put this into the D category. There could be some benefit to this, but it's not your top choice by any means. All right, let's talk about expireds and terminated. Now, before I dive into this, there's a very big con, and that is that it may not be allowed. So what I mean by that is that depending on the rules of your local real estate board, this simply may be not permitted at all. Where I live in Calgary, As an agent, you're not allowed to solicit expired and terminated listings. In fact, if you do, you could get reported to the board and they can slap you with a fine. And potentially, if you do this too much and if you don't listen to those fines, maybe you could lose your license. I don't know if it actually goes that far, but the point is that you can't do it in Calgary. But there are other places around Canada, around North America, where you can do it, and a lot of people find it to be very effective. One other con to this is that you do need to have a very thick skin, because a lot of these people are going to be getting a ton of calls, and they're basically going to be telling agents to F off. They couldn't sell their home, they're very upset, and all these agents are calling them, so get the F out of here. That's what you're going to hear quite a bit. If you don't have that ability to deal with, a little bit of a more difficult situation, you don't like stress, you don't like putting yourself in those confrontational situations, this may not be for you. But the pro is that these sellers are high intention, meaning that they want to get it done, they couldn't get it done, and they are seller leads. So there are a lot of pros here. I'm going to put this into the A category with the big caveat. I'm going to put the little asterisk right there that you may or may not actually be able to do this in your area. Make sure you find out before you go out and do this. All right. Now we've got helping other agents. What I mean by this is you're a brand new agent. You got a lot of time on your hands. You can go out and you can probably spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week on whatever lead generation that you need, if you're willing. Most people aren't willing, but you could. Now, an agent who's been in the business for a very long time, their time is very limited because they have a lot of clients. And at some point in people's careers, they just don't want to work as much. It's just natural. When you initially join this industry, you're going to want to hustle like crazy, assuming that you have that drive to succeed. And eventually, after years, 5, 10, 15, 20, you can only hustle at 100% speed for a limited period of time. Eventually, you're going to want to slow it down because you want to enjoy the success that you've built. You want to enjoy time with family. All of these things become more important. So you, at that point, may look for a buyer's agent that you can now pass leads off to that you don't want to deal with. And if you're a brand new agent and you can link up with an agent that is experienced, that is willing to pass you buy leads, sometimes maybe even seller leads, this can be extremely beneficial. So here's the pros. You can get lots of leads. And the other pro here is that these could be warm leads. These aren't people that are coming, that are from the street, that have no idea who you are. This agent that's experienced is saying, here, work with this person, this other agent that I'm partnered with. They're my buyer's agent. They're going to take care of you. And these people are going to trust you immediately. So this can be very solid. Now, the cons are it can be hard to find a good agent to partner with. So we're going to put hard to find agent. Sometimes you're going to get lucky and you're going to be able to find an agent that you can partner with very well and it's very smooth. Sometimes you're simply not going to be able to find somebody who is a reliable partner. The other downside here is that you could have high expectations, meaning that this partner that you have is going to want you to perform at a certain level. So you're going to need to make sure that you're bringing your A game. I'm going to put this into the S tier. Of course, the caveat is that you have to find the agent. If you don't, then this doesn't work. But if you can, this can be extremely beneficial for a brand new agent. So really try to make this happen if you can. Open houses. All right, open houses are something that gets talked about quite a bit. So we finally made it here. We can talk about them here. So let's talk about the pros. It is, we'll say, face to face. You can actually get in front of people. Sometimes you can get in front of quite a few people when you're doing open houses. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. I've done open houses where literally nobody showed up and I took a nap. Don't tell anybody. And I've also done open houses where like 30 to 40 groups of people came through and it was crazy and I got a bunch of numbers. So it can be really feast or famine. But you are face to face, which is fantastic, which means that you have a good ability to convert. And you are able to catch people early in their search. Catch early in search. Because a lot of the time, people who are going to open houses may not have an agent yet. The flip side of that is they could just be tire kickers. They may not be that serious. So may not be serious. That is 100% a downside. And some of these people will never buy a home. Or they might not buy a home for the next 5 years, right? If you can build those relationships, it can still be worthwhile, but you just have to keep in mind that that can be a huge downside. And the other thing is you have to wait for people to come to you. So you have to be there, and sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. Now, when it comes to open houses, I'm going to put this into A. I think that open houses are a great thing that brand new agents should be doing. All right, let's talk about running ads. Here we're talking about Facebook, we're talking about PPC, we're talking about wherever you want to run ads, where you're paying to put a message, an ad in front of somebody. You're driving them to a landing website. Hopefully that website has an IDX feed. Hopefully that website has the ability to take people from the start to the end of a funnel. You can capture their information and reach out to them. So here's the pros. You can get a lot of leads. And this is an extremely powerful way to generate leads. In fact, this is one of the leading industry ways that people generate leads. You can also get buyer and seller leads, but seller leads are a little bit more expensive and can be a little bit tougher to come by. The cons are money. This can get very, very expensive, especially as a brand new agent, which is why I'm going to put this into the B tier. For an agent who's experienced, for an agent who has deep pockets to make all of this happen, this would be absolutely S tier. But for a brand new agent, you got to be more careful. So that's why this is in the B category. Cold calling. All right, cold calling's been around forever. What I really like about this is that you can do it a lot. So it's not as time consuming as door knocking. You don't have to set up signs. You don't have to go and wait somewhere at an open house. You can do this pretty much all day if you wanted to. You also can be fairly intentional with your approach. And what I mean by that is you could sometimes focus on a specific geographic area and you can really hammer in on that area that you want to focus on. The cons are it lacks face-to-face. So this is going to be just obviously on the phone. People are going to hang up on you. So we'll put hang-ups. And it can be a little bit challenging. Just emotionally, it's challenging because some people don't like rejection. You have to do this quite a bit. You got to get really good at this. If your scripting is top-notch, you're confident, and you're not afraid of getting rejected, you got a thick skin, this can work exceptionally well. One other downside is that call screening is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. As technology evolves, it's more difficult to get a hold of people, and they're putting more barriers between you and being able to actually get them on the phone. So because of that, I'm going to put this into A. Back in the day, maybe even 5 years ago, I would have put this into S, but I do think that it's not quite as powerful as it used to be, but it's still very, very good. All right, up next is going to be geo farming. Geo farming is essentially where you are focusing on a specific area and you're doing everything you can to get known in that area, and you're trying to find seller leads, buyer leads, whatever it is. You're essentially farming an area that is your place. Okay, you're competing for it with other agents, of course, because it can get very competitive in this sense. And this is a combination. You're going to be doing bus benches. You might be doing door knocking. You might be doing events. So you're doing a whole bunch of different things. So the pros here are that you can focus on an area. And the other pro is that you can really build a lot of trust. So we'll put build high trust. Now, of course, there are downsides. The biggest downside is that this takes a long, long time. This isn't something that's going to be done over a month, probably not even over 6 months. In fact, it could take years, which is a very big problem because as a brand new agent, you don't want to wait for years to start doing business. So this probably isn't going to be a top-notch strategy for you, but down the road, this could become really good. So for a brand new agent, I'm going to put this into the C tier. All right, business networks. We're almost at the end here. I know this is a lot, but hopefully you're getting some good info. So business networks. I'm talking about Business Networks International, or like any networking groups, clubs, things like that. There are specific clubs and networks that exist where people come together from different professions and they try to collaborate and they send each other business. Now, here's the pros. You can get really good leads. And these are leads that are going to be warm. You can get a steady flow. And this can work really, really well. But the cons are realtor seats are competitive. So what that means is that if you are trying to get into one of these clubs, you may have to fight other realtors, or you may have to start your own club. There's also a commitment. So you're going to have to commit to weekly meetings, or maybe monthly, depending on how it's set up, but you're also going to, you may have to present, you may have to come prepared. So this isn't as simple as you just join it and you get leads. You do have to work these. It is going to be a significant amount of input that you're going to have to do. And because of that, I'm going to be putting this into the B category. B for business. All right, the last one, YouTube. Okay, YouTube I think can work really, really well. So let's talk about this. YouTube is video is very quickly growing. So video growing at high rate. Okay, at high rate. Lots of people are consuming video. Video's the place to be, and YouTube is the top platform for video. So I think that YouTube has a lot of benefits, but it is a ton of work, more than you probably think. YouTube is one of those things that it seems simple. I'm just going to turn on my camera. I'm just going to record a video. But then you realize, man, my lighting doesn't look very good. And then you realize, shoot, my camera's not very good quality. And then you think, well, the way that I'm speaking isn't very good. So I've got to practice that. My edits are kind of crappy. I'm going to have to hire an editor. AI is making it easier, though. So maybe within a few years, you won't even need editing. But who knows? We're going to have to see what AI does. But the point is that there's actually a lot that goes into it. You have to be very consistent, and there's a long startup time because there's a lot of competition. So we're going to put that it can take a long time. That being said, I think that YouTube can be really, really good, and it's a good idea to start a YouTube channel as early as possible. So I'm going to put this into the B category. All right, that's it, guys. We're done. Those are all of the most common prospecting ways, and hopefully this is helping you out. Different strokes for different folks, meaning that just because something is in the B category or in the C category doesn't mean that it might not work for you, but it's just less likely to work for you, and it comes with certain downsides. If you're coming into this and you have a lot of money to spend, then some of these dynamics are going to be a little bit different. For things like PPC, running ads, you may be able to do those right away and be able to take it and run with it, but not everybody's going to have a lot of cash. Hopefully this helps you out. Have a great day.